Hello everyone and welcome to the Pancake Parlay episode 28. I'm your host, The Don, and I'm here with Charters.
Hey, how's it going, Don?
I'm always going well, aside from a little injury that I sustained on my leg, but, it's not going to stop me podcasting. You gotta keep on going.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is really good. Remember, you can always reach us on Stitcher, Libsyn, iTunes, as well at YouTube. We split up, obviously segment by segment, on the YouTube channel, Marketing Movies. So I guess we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about some, a lot of comic book properties, more or less. We're going to talk about some Marvel and some DC stuff. But we're just going to start it off with a review, a very late review, because, I guess I was maybe semi-part of the, I guess, what would you say, kind of planned demonstration to kind of boycott Star Wars at the current moment. Well, at least in the first week, or like the first week or two, and things like that, to, I guess, show that it doesn't have the big box office numbers. So I saw Soylo, a Star Wars story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, no, there is definitely like I guess like a passive combined effort to not see the movie, which to be fair is basically fans being like, I'll go watch something else, right? Like that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think Deadpool 2, like in the second week, did a lot better than Soylo, and so it's like one of those things where it's like, even now it's like dipping towards like stuff like The Incredibles and things like that just can't compete,
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say I'm more excited for Incredibles 2 than Soylo, right? Like, or to be fair, like I think a lot of people are pretty hyped for Incredibles. I'll probably have something of a review for that next week. But the thing with Soylo is since you've watched it, and I've only had like maybe minor spoilers kind of revealed about it. I guess I guess we haven't really ever given our Last Jedi review as of yet. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that is pretty correct. But obviously, since we're, I guess, maybe semi part of the fans who maybe weren't happy with The Last Jedi, I think you can probably come where we're coming from, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, we spoilers. We didn't like it. It was a horrible movie, and the more I think about it, the more horrible it is.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think the thing about this movie is it is kind of using some legacy characters, so people that I guess technically people should care about. People did like Han. He was one of the most popular characters in the original trilogy.
He's like pretty much right behind with Luke. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some like I remember reading online and people were saying that Han was more popular than Luke, and like at the time, and I can believe it, at least with like the older audience. I think I always fell into, like, at least when I was a kid, when I was watching a show, I always liked the leader, right? Like, cause like when I'd be watching like Power Rangers, like I liked the Red Ranger, right? Like, but
you like Leonardo, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do like Leonardo from Ninja Turtles, exactly. But it's like it's probably I think it's a little bit different for Ninja Turtles. I think I preferred like Mikey, like Leo, Mikey. Like it's like Leo is probably like the guy you like kind of aspire to be when you're an adult kind of thing, whereas like Mikey is like the cool guy, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, and it's like, and I think it's the same for Star Wars. Like people kind of wanted to be like Luke, or they could at least put themselves in the shoes of Luke and trying to figure out who they are and the mysteries of like life and the human condition,
the hero's journey, if you will.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, one of the great things about, like, the original trilogy, it was new, it's fresh, you're kind of discovering, what's happening to these characters. And I think what the issue with this particular movie is that I think for a lot of people, and it is definitely for me, is just what was at stake in this movie. It's like, we know Han Solo doesn't die. We know he makes the big Kessel Run that they talk about. We know that Chewie survives, and we know Childish Gambino survives.
Yeah, Lando Calrissian, our favorite Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. It's all the same guy, apparently.
Well, you know what? To be fair, like in the Star Wars universe, Gambino probably does sound like a name that you'd expect to hear in like some kind of seedy underground Star Wars bar. But,
There's actually a game that people play called Star Wars. What was it? It's Star Wars name or Indian food, and like
oh really?
Yeah, where you get like a random Indian food menu, and then you say like something like that. You're like, oh, that sounds kind of spacey,
like a Star Wars.
And you're like, no, that's actually like chicken with rice, and you're like, okay.
Oh, that's pretty good. But yeah, like again, this movie, like it doesn't, at least for me, like I'm waiting for it to like come out on DVD or I'll watch it on Netflix, right? Like, because the thing is, again, it's like, why should I care about this movie when it doesn't really push the envelope of the Star Wars universe? At least with something like what a lot of fans kind of wanted, which was like a far off prequels in like the Old Republic. At least like it would lead into some future tech stuff, but it's in the distant future. Much like we're going to be talking about later. Krypton, like it's kind of far off. So it doesn't really affect
you
the
can
main
really
stuff.
build up a world with that instead of like working these constraints, being like this is that thing and it has to happen between this area. Like I can see that, yeah.
Well, yeah, but even like the prequels, right? Like the prequels at least were, I don't know, like I want to say Star Wars is really weird like that. Like don't blame me if I don't get like the years correct, but it'd be like 40 years like before, or something like that, before the Death Star is made. So like at least the prequels at least give a lot of like breathing room. With this Han Solo movie, it's literally in between I guess episode 4 and episode 3.
Yeah.
And then who knows, like I think technically Rogue One technically falls in between some aspect of this. I'm not too sure, maybe you can help clarify since you've watched it. Like it could even be it's in between Rogue One and episode 4. I don't know. The thing is, like, I think originally, because Jyn Erso from Rogue One was originally supposed to survive in the original
cut, ending. Before they
the
re-edited
original
it,
cut. Which thank God they did, because I think this is actually an awful version of the ending. Is Jyn Erso, a character who I didn't like, she survives, and then she makes an appearance in the Han Solo movie, or at least that's what they originally were going to do. But clearly they didn't end up doing that. But enough about me ranting about how much I don't want to watch this movie. I want to hear what you thought about Solo.
Well, here's the thing: it's better than The Last Jedi.
The bar's pretty low,
yeah.
low for that.
Like the only thing I really give credit for as The Last Jedi is there's a few shots that really look beautiful, like cinematography wise, but like everything else in that movie just hurts me. This, like, Solo is, I guess, like, you would say, it's very standard. Like, obviously when, the whole, I guess, director controversy and things like that getting replaced,
right.
It is very, like Ron Howard is pretty much well known as just a director that just gets the job done. Gets a script, doesn't really put much tweaks, like, his personal style in it, because he doesn't really have a style, and he just makes the film what the script is, and it's kind of, that's it. Like, it's a standard story. And that's what it kind of is to me. Like, if I was going to rate something like numeric wise, it'd be like a 6.5 to like 7, just because it's enjoyable on parts. There's some parts that are a little bit weird, but overall, it's like you can just enjoy it. Like, it's there, but you like, especially if you're a Star Wars fan, like this is not the Star Wars thing that we wanted in a sense.
Well, I mean, 7 is actually not that bad. Like 5 is average.
Well, that's the thing. I'd put it I don't know. 10 is hard. I'd like in a score. Like I'd put it like a 2. I'd say 2.5 to a 3, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, well, which still is a 6. But I'm saying like 6 is more, I guess, reasonable than like a 7. But again, like I haven't seen it. Maybe it is. Maybe it will. Shatter my expectations, because my expectations are so low for
so
low for this movie,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think obviously the big elephant in the room is does Alden Ehrenreich do a good Han Solo performance? And I don't know. It's like, I feel like there wasn't even much Han Solo in the movie. It feels weird. I don't know. It kind of blended in the background, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Especially for an iconic character with Han Solo, you do that to him a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I've heard that Alden's performance as Han Solo isn't really like the swashbuckling kind of rogue character that he is. Like, it's very different. Almost as if like you could have just named him a different character. And you just made this movie.
Yeah, I think that's even my advice. Like, I think this movie would have benefited a lot better if it wasn't a Han Solo film and it was just a random bounty hunter type of smuggler type of story, and kind of making his own story in a sense and making those things. Because that's the thing, you can like, because obviously since you know like Star Wars and the whole thing, you're like, okay, when is he meeting Chewie and when is he meeting all these people? And it's like, you know, it's gonna happen. It's like, it's one of those like, it's like, it feels like, hey, remember this character? It's kind of like member berries, but like, you know, it's gonna happen in the movie. So like, there's stuff where it's like, oh, there's a monster that's gonna kill you. I'm like, it's Chewie, and it's like, yeah, it's Chewie. Like, there's like all these like arbitrary things where I'm like, it has to hit these particular notes.
Right.
And I feel like obviously it would have benefited a lot better if it had its own individual story without being Han Solo. And, you know, maybe met up with other bounty hunters, and maybe Han Solo is in periphery if they really wanted to do that. But, like, putting so much attention into Han Solo, you don't really get much of his background either in this movie. Like, you get the origin of his name, like his last name.
Oh, man. I heard about this, and I don't know, I kind of, like, cringed to a galaxy far, far away, dude. Like, it's horrible. Do you want to inform the audience what his origin is?
So in essence, he's looking to join the Imperial Army to kind of escape guards, to be a pilot. He's like, oh yeah, what's your last name? He's like, I have no family. So the guy at the station's like, Solar, because he's by himself. He's Solar. So I'm like, it's a funny joke. It's like the same shit from like The Last Jedi. I'm like, this, I don't know, like why do that? Like,
okay, the thing is, right, the whole concept of being solo is, at least in a sense, supposed to be like a English reference kind of thing, right? Like, as in like our galaxy, Milky Way galaxy kind of reference to something, because it has an origin in our language. But you know, in the Star Wars universe, like it's not like as if like, you know, I guess what do they call it in Star Wars? Like English, it's called like universal or something, like, or basic, like right? Yeah, no, they call it basic. Like, you know, do you speak basic? So like in basic, it's like, why would they have solo? Like, why would that be something that exists in their language? It just doesn't make sense. You know,
like it reminds me of like, The Last Jedi. Like the first thing that you hear is a your mama joke. I'm like, I was like, why is this in here? Like, this is not. These are not the Marvel films where they're like trying to replicate our world. This is. I know it's a galaxy far, far away, but I'm like, I think that's a big criticism, I guess, of all these new movies. They made it feel like it's in our world instead of something that's like outer space, different from ours, and that's like one of the main criticisms for a lot of these films, you know.
Well, yeah, like with the prank call at the beginning of The Last Jedi, it's supposed to be. It's like, the issue is that like it's a meta humor, because the humor is being made to target an audience in a galaxy far, far away, right? Like our galaxy. Mm-hmm. But why are these people making prank phone calls, and then also making your mom jokes, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, okay, it contextually is very bad. Not that it doesn't make sense, but rather it's just not that like consistent in the universe that it's supposed to be set in, because it's pandering way too much to a general audience who will just be like, haha, isn't that funny? They made a prank call and your mom joke. Like, it's very lowbrow humor, and I think
there's a few moments in this movie, yeah.
Well, but the thing is, like, Han Solo is a pretty funny character. Like, the thing is, like, a lot of his humor is very much like, kind of, not necessarily black, but it'll be like, you know, he'll make a comment or like a one-liner given, like, you know, he's in a tough situation, and that's how he kind of, one, deals with the situation, but two, kind of eases tensions, and you also kind of get his character when he makes a joke. When you make a joke where it's like, hey, we're making a current meme that's not gonna obviously die like a couple of months later, like, it's just like really bad direction. But anyways, like, thing is, his name's stupid, but like, well, what about the rest? Look, in my mind, it's non-canon. So
yeah, pretty much. They might as well just rewrite this film. But yeah, it's kind of your standard story of, like Alden Ehrenreich, Han Solo, if you will, meets Emilia Clarke's character, Carrera. I don't know quite. It's something like that. And they're lovebirds, and they get separated, and then like it jumps like 3 years later, and obviously he meets Woody Harrelson's character, who's Beckett, and he's basically kind of once again a smuggler, and that's how he kind of joins the smuggling crew. So like I kind of like actually like Woody Harrelson's character, but like he's like, I remember when hearing about the description of this movie, it's like he's a mentor, but he's not really a mentor. Like I feel like Han Solo is just part of the ride, and he just kind of goes with everything. I don't feel like there's even one scene where they I guess like there's supposed to be a heist going on, and there's a pilot, and then Han Solo has to pilot because something happened to the pilot, and the guy's like, "Yeah, you're a really good pilot." I'm like, "Are you sure?" That was like literally like a minute of screen time, and it's like, "Yeah, you're a really good pilot." I don't know, stuff like that. It's just like it just doesn't flow properly. Like
as in it's like really like
quick and like you're telling me like you're a really good pilot, and Han Solo is like, "I'm gonna be the best pilot there ever is." Like and that's even back to Alden Ehrenreich's performance. Me doing that voice is kind of what he's doing, because like at certain times he does get that, I guess, Harrison Ford sound, because Harrison Ford is kind of like a low tone, maybe grumbly, like a little bit angry. Like I guess his mannerisms, all he is to do Han Solo, he puts his hands on his hips and like leans on a wall, and he's like, "That's Han Solo." That's his performance.
Yep.
But yeah, once again, very standard. Obviously the Kessel Run is obviously probably the best part of the film.
Okay, so the Kessel Run is the best part of the film. Is that so? So just to give the audience a bit of insight, so what's the Kessel Run?
So it was a thing kind of like talked about in, I guess, Star Wars lore, where Han Solo is like, my Millennium Falcon and I, we did the Kessel Run in like 14, something like that. No, is it 12?
Yeah,
12
I think 12 parsecs.
Yeah, 12 parsecs. Yeah. So it was one of those things where everyone's like, what is this? And essentially the plot of the film is they have to get this, I forgot the exact term for it, but they have to get this type of fuel that's used for like the spaceships in the Star Wars universe, from this mine. But obviously, to transport, like, I guess, raw mineral to the mining refinery, it's like too long of a time. So he's like, we got to go through the I guess the station's called Kessler, and it's called the Kessler Run. So a lot of smugglers do it.
Okay.
So it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you like the minimum amount of time you can do it is in 20 parsecs. So he's like, I'll do it, and he does it in 12. So yeah, very very interesting chase. It's really cool. Very, like, visually it looks really cool. Even something like, there's a lot of action in this film. The more that I think about it, like, there's not so much story, but like that's probably for the best. Emilia Clarke's character, who's Han Solo's kind of love interest, like I can kind of buy that, like they were in love, but I can clearly see obviously there was some sort of betrayal. Like even in the trailer, Woody Harrelson's character Beckett is like, "You shouldn't trust anyone, not even me." I'm like, yeah, so you're gonna betray him, aren't you? Like, there's a lot of stuff in this film, like, yeah, some shit's going down. No one's gonna be alive aside from Han Solo and Chewbacca, basically.
Yeah. Like, I guess this movie is supposed to kind of set the tone for his kind of outlook on the world and his kind of cynicism towards people, I guess.
Yeah, like, it's obviously, like, it's playing with, especially around, like, maybe the last third of this film will be like, hey, by the way, you should probably join, like, the rebellion. Like, they're not called the rebellion. They're called something else, because I don't think they really coined the term rebellion before this movie, like, before, like, in the Star Wars universe before this came out. So, yeah, it's like, I think they're called something else, but they're just like, yeah, we're helping whatever, the resistance or whatever it's called. So and then he's like, yeah, no, I'm going to stay out of it, obviously. So there's, like, a little bit of hint, nudge to that. Donald Glover's, I guess, performance as Lando Calrissian is, like, probably the best thing about this movie. Like, he does get the mannerisms down. He does look like Billy D. Williams when he smiles, so that's good. you do see, I guess, like Solo winning the Millennium Falcon, which is cool as well. Like his performance is probably the best out of everyone's. And once again, it's one of those things where like you don't really see him do much in this film, which is kind of unfortunate because it's probably the best part about this film.
It's really funny that like Lando continuously kind of doesn't get much of like the limelight as he probably should. Like he's a pretty interesting character. And I guess for people who want kind of more diversity in like these movies, like he'd probably be the perfect person to try and get in it. Donald Glover is like a well-renowned actor. For people who don't watch it, he's on Atlanta, and I've heard that's a really good show.
Yes, I watched that show. Yeah, Community was fun.
Donald Glover, and also like in I think in Star Wars Rebels they have Lando in it a lot more, but even the Lando in that show is far more like cartoonish because the show is definitely skewed towards like a more younger demographic, right? At least like on a live action, at least you can try and push the limit a little bit, even though now it's constrained by Disney. So they might not do anything fun anymore in terms of like doing anything like super evil, like goodbye having any like super major like adult/sex scenes anytime in like they had like those kind of scenes in like the episodes 1 through 3
1 through 3 is very like mature if you're like in a sense.
Yeah, in a sense,
aside
right?
from episode 1
like it's trying to be edgy.
Yeah, it's different,
Yeah, it's trying to be edgy, right? Like, which is fine. It's just okay. Like, and I haven't expressed this particular view. Like, as much as people hated the first 3 movies, I didn't hate them as much. But the thing is, like, at least the first 3 movies felt like Star Wars to me. And while episode 4 was episode. You see, I'm even getting them confused. Episode 7 was basically episode 4. And episode 8 was just like, it just didn't feel like a Star Wars movie.
It really was disconnected. But
sorry, detract.
I was just going to talk about performance. So like L3 was L3 was basically a joke. It's very distracting, that droid, and it was very annoying.
From my understanding, like it was L3 3T or something, like
L337.
Okay, so it's supposed to be like elite, right? But you see, again, that's like another, like I get it, like I get that is something that is supposed to be a reference to like elite, and it's like, oh look, it's kind of like C3PO, but like C3PO and R2D2, like those aren't things that like explicitly refer to anything, whereas L337 is. It's supposed to be like, oh hey, look, it's us referencing gaming culture. Even K2SO, who like is just like a one-off character, who's a droid, badass, probably the best thing to come out of
all the new Star Wars. Yeah.
Well, but yeah, like because he's like a well-written character. From Rogue One, it's a really good like droid character. But they kill him off. Like you see, I think he was like the one character who I was actually sad for who died.
Yeah, I remember watching in the cinemas, and then like when he died, I'm like, oh no! Like there was a gasp, like, oh no, not him, and everyone, him. That's
because he's actually enjoyable. Because he's an enjoyable character who, when he's on screen, you enjoy seeing them. From my understanding, what is it, L337? She's leading like kind of like a android rebellion.
Yeah, there's a whole like robot rebellion thing. Like I don't know, it's like semi-political stuff where it's like robot rebellions, like you don't have to be slaves and things like that, and like in a sense, it's kind of maybe played as a joke because like in the end, like her trying to like start this rebellion actually causes like alarms to go off, so it's like you ruin the mission because of that. So that was kind of interesting. It was something, and then there's obviously the other villain, which is Paul Bettany. He plays Voss, and he's kind of like the big gangster who like he's just a rich guy with gangster money, and he's like, you need to give me all this stuff. He's relatively wasted. Like I feel like he's a very interesting character, but there's only like literally 2 scenes with him, and that's how much screen time he gets. So it's very like I don't really care for this character. Like I feel like there might have been like a third villain or something along those lines. Like I feel like he was like a mid-tier type of thing. But, you know, overall, like I probably rambled on about this movie so much, but like overall, it's very standard. Like, I think my review on this thing is it feels like Star Wars in parts, but this movie could have easily been done, I guess, like in our world. Like, I was even talking to my friend. I'm like, yeah, you know, you could replace spaceships with cars. You can replace the fuel for gold. You know, you can replace the Kessler Run with this high chase, scene, and it's basically Fast and Furious. So yeah, I guess the identity, it's like this script can work for literally like any, like it could be set in modern day and it'd be kind of the same result. So, you know, that's kind of my long-winded, very late review of Solo, a Star Wars story.
It's fine. It's not like anyone's watching this movie anyway.
Well, yeah, it's like it's made money, but obviously, like Star Wars should be making at least like $1 billion per movie, and now this can't even crack $500 million. So,
well, yeah, like I think, you know, the budget for like I'm looking it up, $275 million
because of all the reshoots.
Yeah, but then on top of that, that's not even including all the kind of
marketing, advertisements,
marketing and stuff. So and then currently at the box office, like as of this recording, it's only made $343 million. My understanding, I remember reading an article, that it's set to lose $80 million. And to be fair, that's like a drop in the ocean of like, you know, Disney money, but you know, as a result, it's kind of led to one of the big announcements recently, which is, that they're putting all the kind of standalone film, on hold, which is a bit of a shame because I think that only, to be fair, the upcoming Solo films the upcoming, standalone films are far more interesting or have a far more interesting concept than a standalone Han Solo movie.
It's one of those things where, like, did anyone really want a Han Solo spin-off film? Like,
I don't.
It's one of those things where everyone was like, when everyone was realizing that Solo was tanking, that's when they were like, shit, we're gonna do a Boba Fett Solo movie. I'm like, you should have just led with that, or like even just said something like Old Republic, and people would have been fine. But like, you know, like I feel like we shouldn't like I guess like Lucasfilm shouldn't put so much money and effort into these already well-established characters. Like, make something new. Like, I think one of the main problems with these new Star Wars films is that, you know, all they're doing is humans and droids. I really want like an alien or different types of alien races and things like that, and do something with them. Like, there hasn't been a really cool like alien like character that's like, oh my god, this character. Like, everyone loves Yoda, but like there's no Yoda equivalent, you know, to any of these films.
Well, I was gonna say, if they hadn't of kind of semi-butchered like the, not necessarily origin, but I guess like the post Phantom Menace Darth Maul, I would have really liked to have seen what a Solo's Darth Maul movie would have been like with the and I guess spoilers, Darth Maul is in Solo, correct? Like, he's at the end.
Yeah, there's like a reveal that like he's in cahoots with some characters in the movie, and he's like, yeah, come towards me so you can finish your training. So it's like, I feel like there's a semi startup for something going on, or if there was they were doing the Obi-Wan like spin-off film, maybe he was gonna somehow be like, oh, I have to kill like Darth Maul now again.
But you see, but the issue even there is, in Star Wars Rebels, they already revealed that, Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul like many years later. So sure, not everybody pays attention to, every form of Star Wars media, but a quick Google search will already spoil like, what's going to happen to Darth Maul, right?
Yes.
And this isn't even speaking about like, all the now non-canon legacy stuff, which would have even had more things to do with. I think like if they hadn't have done all the stuff on Rebels and even all the stuff with like in the Clone Wars, I didn't actually like the whole him having robot legs.
It was very weird. It was very weird. Like robot, like the spider ones, like that's a little bit weird. But then like normal legs is okay, but like weird other leg, I don't know, it's weird.
But what you see, the robot legs, like if it was like one of those things where it's just like, they're robot legs, but they just look like normal legs, like that's fine, because then you never have to address it again, and it's very like under the radar. Like it's a very like kind of soft retcon of him getting his body chopped in half. Whereas if you put like explicit robot legs that, you know, really capture your eyes when you look at it, and you remember that he had half his body cut up, you know, it kind of like, it brings a lot of attention to the facts like, oh yeah, that happened, right? Whereas like, at least like if you were just to be like, he got normal legs and it's done by magic or done by androids, or he's in a new clone body or something like that, at least you can kind of, you know, soft reboot the character and do something cool with it. But now that they've done all this stuff, you can't get anything cool with Darth Maul anymore. But yeah, like I actually wouldn't mind like a you know, Boba Fett movie. Like there was one which you know, like idea that was thrown out that I remember hearing, that it's literally you know, after the events, I think in episode 6, where he gets eaten by that like, you know, weird sand flower monster thing, and it's basically about him like escaping and then retiring because you know, everybody thinks he's dead, Jabba's dead, he kind of gets, you know, all his money, and he kind of like, you know, retires off somewhere, but then he gets found, and then he's brought back into it, and they're like, oh, you have to, you know, do this job or we'll expose you or whatever, and then he has to take up the, you know, and be Boba Fett again. Like that sounds like a pretty cool, like kind of you know, space western kind of movie that I'd like to see.
Well, that's probably the main reason why they hired James Mangold to write and direct that Solo film, the spin-off film. Because James Mangold did 3:10 to Yuma.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously he did Logan, which you could say is it's got very old Western
kind of
things. I think that's one of the major reasons they're just like, like be a Western, but like in Star Wars and like, you know,
in space.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, like I could totally see that. But yeah, that's here nor there. We might not ever see that. So who knows?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Solo for me.